On May 20th, 2020, a former US Marine, Jacob Gardner, he was 38 years old. He killed a 22-year-old black BLM rioter, not a protester, a rioter. And I am going to show some of the footage from that night outside. But the interesting part of this is initially it was ruled self-defense because it was. They actually attacked him. They didn't only attack him, but they attacked his 69-year-old father. Now, the most interesting aspect of this whole thing is that there was a Nebraska senator who was pushing to have this former US Marine, he was a veteran, charged with manslaughter. And that did happen, and it resulted in him eventually taking his own life because he knew in the wake of George Floyd, the George Floyd incident, that he was not going to get a fair trial. Now, I've made my opinions pretty well known on the George Floyd thing. Now, maybe George Floyd did die of drugs, but I do still think that that officer, Derek Chauvin, used excessive force. I do think that. Like, he was restrained. There was no need for the knee on the back of the neck. And you had professional MMA fighters come out and say, if you want to kill a dude, that's how you do it. I stand by that. You know, maybe he did die of drugs, maybe he didn't. But it was still excessive force that was used on an unarmed man. But back to this, because this is a completely different situation. Now, I'm going to look at the Daily Mail, and we're going to read this out. A US Marine vet died by suicide shortly after a woke mob led the charge for him to be charged following a self-defense shooting at the height of the Black Lives Matter riots in Nebraska. Now, details of the incident are available and describe the shooting and how 2 lives ended in the incident, because he would eventually go on to take his own life because they were putting so much pressure on this veteran, and he knew he was looking at probably going to jail for 95 years, as it turned out. And, you know, they're trying to make this a race issue, and they made up all sorts of lies about this man, saying he had a swastika tattoo, that his father was part of a white supremacy group, and this senator did as well. And the shocking thing about all of this senator is still a fucking senator. Like, you need to get rid of these people. When Donald Trump talks about draining the swamp, this is exactly what he's talking about. Now, she didn't just pander to this woke mob. She filled a semi-trailer full of petroleum and drove it straight into the fire, and it exploded. This is exactly what she did. She fanned the flames of this. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to say what I say here. The blood of this man is on her hands. Her name is, before we get into that, her name is Senator Megan Hunt. This is a Facebook profile. State Senator in Omaha's District 8, Vice Chair of Urban Affairs by Queen, because she's bisexual, she leads with that. Like, who gives a fuck about your sexual preference? And she wants to abolish ICE. US Immigration and Customs Enforcement mission is to protect America from cross-border crime and illegal immigration that threatens national security. Why the fuck would you want to abolish that? Why would you want to weaken your borders? Now, we'll get into the tweets that she made. She really needs to resign. There should be pressure on her to resign. I know this is old, but this bitch is still fucking getting around in politics. And you wonder why you have so much problems. So back to the article. On May 30th, 2020, at the peak of the George Floyd protests, Jacob Gardner, a white United States Marines veteran, shot dead a black man involved in the Black Lives Matter rioter outside his bar in Omaha, Nebraska. Involved in the Black Lives Matter rioting. The shooting was described as self-defense as the black protester jumped on his back and the vet Gardner fired a lone fatal shot. So he's gone bang like that to get him off his back. Now, he was attacked earlier by a woman, and he discharged it. And you'll see this in the video. He discharged the weapon twice. He showed it to him. They knew he was armed, and they mocked it. Now, this was just after they violently pushed over his 69-year-old father. These young punks love targeting elderly people. Gardner was charged with manslaughter more than a month after the shooting and faced upwards of 95 years behind bars. Now, when these woke mobs do go after people, you notice that these people don't usually get charged for like a month. We saw it with an idiot that I cover called Dinesh John Nashirvan, that Dinesh guy on TikTok. You can see a lot of my videos in I think it's the TikTok Predator playlist. He did the same thing to Jennifer Couture. She wasn't charged for over a month because he put pressure on the police department. And I do believe she was wrongfully charged in that. And now he's being sued. You know, this is a lawsuit that is going against a man that doxes and harasses and cyberstalks people. That's currently ongoing. Back to the article. The vet faced mounting legal bills and the prospect of prison and decided to end his life. On that May night, 38-year-old Gardner was guarding his bar armed with pistols and a shotgun while rioters, including 22-year-old James Schurlock, vandalized nearby businesses and closed in. So they were closing in on his bar. Gardner was holed up at the bar with his father, and when one of the windows shattered, the 69-year-old pursued the people who broke it. While confronting the group, the elderly man was shoved violently to the ground and Gardner ran over to help him. Now, you do see this in the video. This guy's nearly 70 years old, and they violently push him to the ground. An argument broke out where Gardner and Scurlock came face to face. Again, you'll see this in the video. And as the rioters closed in, the veteran flashed his pistol and threatened them to stay away. A woman jumped on Gardner's back, and as he was tackled to the ground, he discharged the weapon twice. After Gardner shook the woman from him, Scurlock jumped on his back. As the two grappled, Gardner repeatedly pleaded with Scurlock to get off him. This is self-defense. When there was no relent, Gardner pointed his gun over his shoulder and fired a single shot. Scurlock was shot in the chest and later died in hospital. Scurlock's death heightened the tensions already boiling in Omaha just 5 days after George Floyd was killed in Minnesota. It's not even the same fucking state. And all these dipshits, a lot of them don't even have jobs, and they go to areas that they don't live in, and they vandalize and destroy people's businesses. Now, people fucking work there. People have jobs that they need to make money to support their family. These people go into the area and just trash it. Like, Black Lives Matter is the biggest fucking fraudulent group I think that's ever existed besides Antifa. They're both the same. Omaha, Nebraska was no different, and the riots led to the confrontation between Gardner and Scurlock. In the following days, people began to turn on Gardner and villainize him for the shooting. Further demonstrations were sparked by the killing, and protesters demanded that Gardner be charged as accusations flew that it was yet another racist murder. These people just love making shit up. That included riots in various communities. Rumour began to swirl that Gardner had a swastika tattoo and that his bar's sign had white supremacist imagery hidden within it and was known for turning people away at the door based on their race. Now, this is what these people do. They make up fucking lies on the internet about people to villainize them. People said his father had become a white supremacist while serving time in a Texas prison for drug charges. This gets really fucking interesting. But there was no record of his father ever serving time in prison. So it was just a made-up story that people on the internet decided to run with. According to the New York Times, and Gardner's medical files had no details about a swastika tattoo. Now, that would have come out in the autopsy if he had one. There wasn't one. These people lied about him. What was known about Gardner was that he had been given a presidential award for being one of the first Marines deployed to Iraq in 2003. And after serving, he returned to Omaha and ran a successful bar, The Hive. That was the name of the bar. When the pandemic hit, he was forced to shut the bar down for weeks and was hemorrhaging money. Just before the BLM protesters broke out, Gardner restocked the bar with enough alcohol to gross up to $90,000 in much needed profits, according to the Times. As riots broke out, he was desperate to defend the bar and his inventory because this man is fucking walking a shoestring. He's basically walking a razor's edge, trying to keep his living. And these fucking young idiots go around there destroying everything. And when you confront them, they try to bash you. And it could lead to you dying. This man, it was straight up self-defense. He should never have been charged. And we're going to break down that because it's fucking ridiculous. This senator should be forced to resign. You know, people should be fucking furious over this. I know it's quite a few years old, but this is prime example of what happens when you get these fucking whack jobs in positions of power. Scurlock grew up poor in a largely black neighborhood in Omaha. He had periods of homelessness throughout his childhood. had gone to jail at 16 years old, and by May 2022, he had a newborn child and planned to enroll in community college. Videos from that night showed Scurlock vandalising a number of businesses, including an architecture firm next door to Gardner's bar, and evidence suggested he was the one who'd broken the bar window. So this guy really should have been fucking charged. You know, had he not died, obviously. He's the one who should have been charged, and they should have gone after who the fuck assaulted that 69-year-old man. Like, why are you going after Jacob Gardner, who was defending himself? When the pair clashed that night, witnesses said Gardner had been hurling racist slurs at Scurlock and his friends. That's a blatant lie. There's footage. He never did that. While the Marine always vehemently denied the accusations, there is a video of the incident but no audio, and it is unclear what anybody is saying. He never said that. These people are known fucking liars. Omaha County Attorney Don Clean, a progressive Democrat, ultimately determined after an investigation that Gardner had acted in genuine self-defense and chose not to pursue charges. Now, this was a Democrat, a progressive Democrat. Some were not pleased with the decision. One local lawyer, Ryan Wilkins, a white man who had expressed a desire to be more aware of racism, wrote a number of essays pushing unfounded claims about Gardner's racial beliefs that went viral online. People are trying to get fucking attention off this. These white people, they love getting attention. It's virtue signaling at its finest. You'd have to be a fucking moron to believe any of this shit. White State Senator Megan Hunt said the decision played into the hands of white supremacists, which she claimed Gardner was. Provides absolutely no proof of any of this. She just says it. She's a senator. This is somebody who should be held accountable. Accountability is reserved for people in positions of power, just like Megan Hunt. This woman should step down. This woman should be forced to resign. White supremacist groups, including ones Jake Gardner was in communication with, rely on you thinking that none of this is a big deal so they can organize their support, she said. Shows absolutely no proof of this. Again, she's lying. She's doing this to pander to the extreme left. You've got a fucking whack job in the Senate. Something needs to happen to get rid of these people. You need to remove them from positions of power, because a lot of these people that gravitate towards this shit, they're out there protesting and carrying on. A lot of them are mentally ill. And then you back that up with people who are attention seeking and using that to virtue signal, to gain platforms, to gain positions of power. You know, this woman used him as political fodder for her own career. She's a disgrace. This man served the United States people overseas. Regardless of how you feel of the war, he served you. He served her. And this is how she repays him, by using him to score political points with the extreme leftists. A pressure mounted, Klein stepped away and ceded his decision. A special prosecutor appointed to the case, Fred Franklin, a black man and former federal prosecutor from Omaha. Franklin's office said Gardner could have been hiding armed in his bar with the hopes that he could shoot a rioter as they broke in. But then when nobody entered, he pursued them out for blood. He's got no proof for this. There's no proof for that. He was protecting his bar when they shattered the window, and it was believed that this Scurlock was the guy who did it. His elderly father went out there to confront him, which I think was a big mistake. They should have stayed in the bar. But that's what happened. They pushed over his elderly father. He went in to protect his dad, told them to back away. He didn't go out there looking for blood. The proof is in the video. This man, Fred Franklin, is lying. He's lying to all of you. That theory placed Gardner as the aggressor and therefore ruled out self-defense. Again, the video disproves that. It fucking disproves it. Fred Franklin here is lying. He's lying about this to score political points, probably with this Megan fucking Hunt. You know, all these people give a shit about is their career, and they will use you, they will throw you to the wolves to achieve their objectives. They don't give a fuck about you. As I said, this man's blood is on their fucking hands. They really should all step down. They should all resign. People should be fucking furious about this. Fearing for his safety, Gardner had left Omaha and was staying in Portland, Oregon. I don't know if that's the best place to go considering Portland was destroyed by Antifa. Shortly after the killing and when the charges were handed down, he was ordered back to Nebraska. The morning of his flight back to Omaha, Gardner shot himself and died. Before his death, Gardner had expressed fears to his parents that he would be killed in prison and the family would be bankrupt by his defense trial. Now, that is a legitimate fear because you have the fucking senator of Nebraska making up lies along with this Fred Franklin, who is a former federal prosecutor of Omaha. So those fears are very legitimate. A year after his death, Gardner's parents sued the county and Franklin. They cited Franklin's comments about the incident, which they called misleading, and they said led to their son's suicide. The lawsuit was tossed shortly after it was filed. They really should have won, but they're not going to pay the money out. The state they want to cover this up. They fucking sure as shit don't want to pay that money out. Now let's have a look at this bitch's tweets. Now this is Senator Megan Hunt. The indictment of Jake Gardner would never have happened without the community, the people who stood up for justice and demand action from city officials. Jake Gardner is gone, but the white supremacist attitude that emboldened him is still with us today. Again, fucking lying about it. Now, what these people want is they want you to be a victim. They want you to not do something. So when Antifa or BLM come around and they smash up your property and they get you on the ground and they beat the fuck out of you, and we see this all the time, these people get away with it. They want you to sit there and cop it. They don't want you defending yourself or anybody else or your property. Because if you do, you're the one who's getting charged. Now, another one of the great tweets is white supremacist groups, including ones Jake Gardner was in communication with, rely on you thinking that none of this is a big deal so they can organize their support. They have been successful. White supremacist violence now makes up the majority of domestic terror in the US. Not fucking true. We also must recognize that the real crisis of suicide and depression that touches people who experience all kinds of trauma. Suicide is not cowardly or selfish. Dying by suicide is never the easy way out. The language we use to talk about suicide and depression is so important. Part of the reason this man is dead, I would say a large part of the reason, probably the whole reason, is because of her. You know, she legitimized these fucking whack jobs. That was her that did that. So I come across this on Matthew Nickel, Twitter account. This is Jake Gardner, who killed 22-year-old black man James Schurlock in self-defense. He was released because a county attorney said it was self-defense, which it was. I'm going to play the video in a minute. However, a woke mob of BLM protesters, which included Nebraska Senator Megan Hunt, led protests to get him convicted. His case was presented to a jury and Gardner received 4 felony charges. Ridiculous. One included manslaughter. Included are disgusting so-called woke tweets from Hunt. Gardner committed suicide from all the pressure. This was self-defense and is sad how people like Hunt with her woke mob can influence people using race. This is a sad story and we must remember Jake Gardner. And that's why I made this video, because he's 100% right. You know, it is absolutely fucking disgusting that this bitch she's still a senator. She's still a Democrat. Like, she needs to be fucking ousted. Here's the video.
Well, tensions remain high in Omaha today after a decision by the Douglas County attorney not to press charges against a business owner who shot and killed a protester over the weekend. Brian Master has more and a warning. Some of the video you're about to see might be disturbing to some.
Saturday night, Old Market bar owner Jake Gardner, shown here in a gray T-shirt, shot and killed 22-year-old James Schurlock during a 20-second scuffle on the ground.
He was trying
Douglas
to de-escalate the
Don
situation.
Klein says he's looked at all the evidence available and determined the shooting was self-defense. After 3 days of protests, 2 of which were violent, he knew the decision would be unpopular.
It can't be based on emotions. It can't be based on anger. It can't be based on any of those things. But I would hope that this great community that we live in will be able to get through this.
Here's what the video shows. The bar owner's 68-year-old father violently shoved to the ground by one of the protesters. His son, Jake Gardner, tries to figure out who did it. At one point, he showed this group the gun in his waistband. Oh, he got a gun on. There's James Schurlock.
He's backing away. You see how he's backing away? Fred Franklin's comments are completely wrong. He was out there looking for blood. Well, why isn't he walking towards them? Why is he backing away with his hands up like this? Fucking liars. Just something I picked up on playback. There is sound in this video. Now, one of the big things that they said is there was no sound and they couldn't hear whether or not he made racial slurs. There's sound in the video. These people are lying to you.
The black t-shirt, who had been seen breaking windows at another business nearby on a security camera as part of the protest. Shortly after this point, two people jump on the bar owner's back. There's a struggle in the street. Jake Gardner fires 2 shots. 11 seconds later, James Schurlock jumps on the back of the bar owner. They wrestle in the street.
He said that the initial shots, by his version of events, again, this is his version, were warning shots to get somebody off of his back, that the other individual then jumped on him or attacked him, that he's doing a chokehold on him, that he begged and pleaded for this person to get off. The person was trying to get at the gun, he thought.
Of course he was trying to get at the gun. This is what they want to do.
Losing his life,
they want to bare minimum beat the fuck out of him.
And so he fired that shot in self-defense.
It was self-defense. It's obvious. He was backing away. Now they've tried to say, oh, he thought he was in a war zone. Maybe after the shooting, but definitely not at that time because he wasn't out there with the gun fucking pointed at anybody. He was backing away trying to get his father out of there. That's all that happened. And you've got a fucking senator going after him with this woke bullshit. You've got a former prosecutor as well. Like, you need to get rid of these people, drain the swamp. Donald Trump was right. See you in the next one.